Woman, you are the holy grail, the Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer. The priestess.
Welcome to the Woman Arising podcast, hosted by Cathy Hartenstein and Zeffi Devi, where we elevate and celebrate inspiring women on the rise. In this podcast, we talk to women from all walks of life about their soul's journey, the obstacles they overcame, and how they embody their feminine power. We hope to elevate women's place in the world, showcase their contributions, and provide inspiration for all women to rise to their fullest potential. Today, our guest is Michelle Vos, a highly skilled master coach and facilitator with over 20 years of experience dedicated to empowering entrepreneurial and corporate women to excel in every facet of their lives. Renowned for her unique ability to ensure clients feel and become genuinely seen, heard, and valued, Michelle employs a transformative process that allows women to tap into their innate wisdom and guides them toward embracing their next levels of personal and professional growth, while letting go of limiting patterns that hold them back from true fulfillment. Through her powerful embodiment retreats and tailored one-on-one coaching sessions, Michelle creates an inspiring environment where high-achieving women can redefine their vision of success and alignment. Her work is deeply rooted in fostering authentic visibility, personal evolution, meaningful connections, and a profound sense of purpose and presence that resonates in both their personal lives and careers. Welcome, Michelle. It is our true honor to have you with us today, as you have been so dedicated to empowering women through the transformative work that you do to help them claim their voices and honor their truth. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here and just to be with these beautiful, amazing women and just everyone who's listening. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, we love you, and we don't even know you yet. I don't even know you yet. You seem very exciting and very happy, and that's really, really the place that we need to go. Sometimes like to constantly be excited and happy of the new things that are coming into our lives. So the question is, when you heard about Women Arising, what did you feel? Did you get some images? Did you get some sensations? Did you get some, I don't know, intuition? Tell us.
Yeah. I love it because I am a visual person. I do get a lot of the visual aspects of it. And I just pictured this. It's just like this woman coming out of a box and constraints. And it's like, yeah, I feel like we're in this such a place of how do we break free from these compartmentalized concepts and constructs that we've had. And so this Women Arising, it just feels like that. It just feels like shaking off and shedding off the old paradigm. It's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. It's always been a very powerful image for us and that we created, because I believe in women rising and arising, because we've been so constricted and we still are in that place. It's very difficult for us to shake it off. And I think the reason we're not doing it is because there's still the world around us that must be, or we must be somehow this right person for everything, and we can hold everything. It doesn't let us shake it off. So thank you for that. That was beautiful. I really, really made sense, and I'm so happy that you're here with us.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, this image that you have of sort of that breaking free and not being defined or compartmentalized, but to really define ourselves from our authenticness, our truth, the many facets of what that means for each individual, I think is very powerful, because a lot of the times, we're getting a lot of messages about who we're supposed to be, or people making decisions for us, or sort of the long history of oppression that women have always been challenged with. And this moment in time, and definitely the mission of what we're trying to do here, is exactly that, to embolden women to, I love that idea of throwing off the shackles of what other people's opinions or ideas of what that means is. So, yeah, I really like that powerful image. So, my question to you is, I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I think that you have a very interesting journey of kind of how you became who you are. And I know one of the things I related to you about is this multifaceted background, that you have multiple passions and not just one, and how you've been able to combine all those things into the work that you do and into the life that you live. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your life's journey and sort of how you became who you are today and kind of what brought you here.
Yeah, that's always the interesting question in the sense of, so how did you, you're like, I don't know. How did like, right? Like it's been a series of things. But I will say, I want to start with this again, an analogy that I talk to my clients about a lot too. And that is this concept of like a train versus a sailboat. Like, I
Mm,
think that a lot of women, we've been taught to be a train or get on a train, right? Like do the things, next step, and then get the kids, right? It's one thing after another, and it's on a track. And I never got on a train. I
mhm,
just never was a train person. I was a sailboat person. Like you just navigate, right? You change as the wind changes. You move along, you get other different skills. You're like, wow, I didn't think I'd be on this path, but here I am. And right. It's so I just think that's the nature of who I be. And so with that, yeah, was always in the creative field of some sort. Started out as design. Dance has been a huge passion of mine forever. Yeah, it's been really interesting to pay attention to my own life looking back, to understand how did I even get to where I am
mm,
today. And truly, one of I will say a defining moment, if there's not a lot of them, but there was one in particular that absolutely changed the course of things. And it was back in October of 2008. And I remember it specifically because I was taking an astrology class and I was in the group and I started to do some automatic writing. And if y'all remember 2007, 2008, right? We were in a lot of big housing crisis. There was a lot of turmoil going on. At the time, I had an entrepreneurial career of being an interior designer. So I had my own company, was rocking and rolling, doing pretty well. And, everything hit the fan, right? So I'm sitting in this astrology class, and at the top of the page, I wrote, what do you want me to do? Like, I just surrendered. It's like I could tell that the wind had left the sails. I was stuck. I was in fear. Right. There was a lot of angst. And 3 pages came out, and they were very specific and nothing I had ever done before.
mm,
So I would say the biggest thing about my journey is just trust. So I trusted. And what I did was I held a summit. I had professional speakers, breakout sessions. I wasn't connected to speakers. I was not in that field. I didn't even have Facebook at the time. How it all came together, I don't even know, besides pure spirit, like literally make a list and just do it every day. Um, and the whole point was the message that I got really clear was, you're not alone.
mm,
So gather them, right? Gather the women. And again, this was before retreats, symposiums, events were a thing. Like that just wasn't a thing that we did in 2008. It was very, very limited. And I had 50 people every day. And the connections that were made there, just like what you guys started with this podcast, like the connections and just that level of women supporting women was profound. And what I did not know at the time was that was a trajectory that put me on a completely different path of becoming a facilitator, going into the coaching, helping women with this, a lot of the spiritual stuff that I've always done in my life. Like it just completely changed my level of visibility, Started doing public speaking, all the things I never thought as an interior designer I would be doing. Right. It just shook everything up. And I will say that was one of the biggest catalysts for where I am today. But I trusted, I
Wow.
completely trusted.
I love this story of hearing that message. First of all, so many of us don't actually listen sometimes when we get that message, and how you were able to surrender to it and go for it. And I'm really curious about, how did you know how to do that? Was that something you were born with, something you learned? Because I think a lot of us struggle with that, right? Like, we might hear our intuition and we might want to do it, or we might not even have the faith in ourselves to do it, even when we have that idea, right?
Yeah.
So, how did you learn that ability to trust? Because that is not a given for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, I think unfortunately, I probably learned to trust from a trauma response because I was in situations in my life that were unsafe. And when I did hear messages or whatever, I did listen. And I think I learned also the opposite of when I didn't listen. So I think I was always one to pay attention to that. I've always been a self-processor. I never relied on other people to help me or support me as a kid. And so when I was struggling with things, I would go in, right? Like I just would go with myself. And so I think that again, from a trauma response, being by yourself, it's safer, was really the thing that allowed me to listen to my own. Like I said, I didn't even know if it was intuition at the time. I had a memory as a kid being 10 years old, sitting in a car we had a big van and we had friends in the car. And I said something out of pure just, yep, I know this to be true. And I just said it. And it's like the air got sucked out of the car. And right, like, because I just felt every adult like, right? Because I said the truth and there was no way that I would have known that. Like, there's just not a possible way that a 10-year-old kid would have known what I knew. Those little things where you go, oh, I know things, right? That you don't really know at the time, but as you look back, you put them together. So I think I've always had to trust that and then learn to use it, really not just like when I was freaked out or scared, but like really use it now all the time, right?
And I think it's interesting you talk about that trauma response, right? We all kind of have some of those aspects in our lives. And what we forget about sometimes with those traumatic experiences is that we actually learn self reliance in those moments.
Yeah.
And when you have that level of self reliance and you cultivate it, because that's what it sounds like you were able to do. Because a lot of the time we might have that trauma, but we don't feel like we can trust ourselves, can maybe have an opposite experience. But when you learn to cultivate that self-reliance, I think you can really build upon some of that trust. You talked a little bit about some of this, but I'd love to hear about, what were some of the obstacles that you really had to overcome in your journey that really helped to solidify some of the successes and inner strength and deep intuition that you utilize all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know if I feel like I've had a lot of obstacles. Like I really sit back and sometimes, and maybe I'm just in the comparisons, place of I'm a cis white woman, grew up in, middle class family, basic dysfunction, you know what I mean? Like, and again, I think because of the self-reliance, I just always had a little bit of I don't know, middle finger to the system too. Like I just really decided that I was going to do it my way. And I also think that sailboat concept, like if I see an obstacle, like I'm going way around. Like I'm just not one to um hit things head on in that way. And I do think that's a lot of that feminine energy I'm able to be in the flow. So, obstacles I think were really pretty quote unquote normal in the sense of the constructs of what it means to be a woman, learning that if you don't work hard, it's not valuable. Like, working hard should feel like it sucks, right? Like these things that I decided not to buy into. Um, early on, I think was a big part of this. Well, there's something that did transpire that I think was a representation of the obstacle that I think all women feel, that I absolutely had a defining moment of no. It was a big no. So when I was I think it was like maybe a junior in high school, I believe. I was really starting to feel this call from, again, this spirit. Like I really started getting curious about that intuition and what God was. I grew up in a family where religion wasn't a thing, but it wasn't an anti thing either. Like my parents were okay with whatever the kids decided they wanted to seek out. And so I started actively trying to discover what God meant to me, like what that felt like. Because I felt God, but I didn't have a understanding or a context of what that meant. So I went to a friend of friends, whatever, went to this like a camp, like a youth camp, right? And I remember going to this youth camp. It was beautiful. I think it was in Northern California, something like that. And I remember feeling so much love. Like I just have never felt that community before, that level of camaraderie and just love. I mean, it opened my heart in so many ways. I felt like I was home. I just could not have been happier in that moment. And, we were getting preached at, sermoned, whatever you call it. I'm not a religious person, so the terminology for me is even elusive. And they started going this whole thing around Eve and Eve's role in basically the demise of humanity, right? Like it's her fault, basically. It's her fault. So I'm sitting there in this church and I can feel my body start to shake. Like I was having literally a visceral reaction to it. And then the emotions started to come and the tears started pouring down. And I don't even know why. Like, I just don't even know why this is happening. I can feel it right now in my heart going back to that place. I think I was, 16, 17 years old. And then the guy goes into the reason that women today feel pain through childbirth is to be punished. It's the punishment. God punished her, Eve, and all women to follow. It was just like, so I literally was a pretty shy kid in public. I could never like talk in class. Like I didn't have a big voice. And I started to stand up. Have you ever had experience where you're like doing something and you're like, this is happening? I don't even know what. I stood up and I just screamed no. I was like, no, no, no. Like, no. I reject all of this. This is untrue. Like, no. And I mean, like, I'm crying and I'm shaking. So then, they're, they've all the counselors, right? Like they've got me pulled off now and, trying to help me process through that this is just the Bible and blah, blah. No. Right. And I'm still crying and I'm heartbroken because I can't be in this community. Right. Like I'm now devastated. There's so many things, but it was in that moment, I really understood that like, I will not buy into this idea. I won't. I can't. There's something inside of me that says no, and I have to follow it.
Absolutely love that you were able to do that even at a young age, because a lot of kids might be like, yeah, I know that's not true, but to stand up and to say it and to say it emphatically is really inspiring to hear. And I feel like you came into this world to be that beacon, that example. And it's interesting because a lot of times in these podcasts, I'll talk about like, as women, have you ever felt marginalized? Well, I know the answer to that question for you, but I know you work with a lot of women, and I'm wondering, like, how do you help women kind of combat this, right? Because the universe or the society is sending these messages to us. Like you said, you went to this youth camp and here's this message about women. And I know this has been some of your life's work, is to help women see their value and their worth. How do you really help women? Because I know you work with women that have maybe some of these high powered jobs in these, very masculine dominated environments, but to be able to have their voices and their power.
Yeah, I would say we have to break down the constructs, right? It's like, because that's the thing, is you got to start pulling apart the layers. What have you been taught that you bought into? You just bought into it. You just bought it. So just unbuy it. Say, I don't want that anymore. But until we start pulling that apart. So that's, I'm a core energy coach. It's all about the core energy behind everything we do. Because it's not about what we do. Like, that just really doesn't matter. It's what's driving that, right? What's the purpose, or not the purpose? What's the point of it? What are you getting from it? What are the reasons you're doing it? And so it's dismantling. And I will also say, just as I say in the word dismantling, I'm very clear about, I am just not one of those coaches or facilitators who believes you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. It might happen that way for you, but I don't believe that that's how you have to do it. Because I think our nervous system a lot of times goes, well, I don't know if I want that. That's a lot. So I just think that part of this is, you got to break down the different constructs that you have bought into. And then, because you can't, I think a lot of times, I think I have had the privilege, I'll say, or the path, or the sort of that sailboat path, is I did look at this stuff as a kid. I did. Yeah, at 16 years old, I was processing this kind of stuff. And no one taught me to do that. But no one also taught me not to do that. I think that's the difference, right? I think that's the doorway that allowed me to do it, is I wasn't told differently. And so I think we have to have that time and space. And I think most women, a lot of my clients are on the train. So they're so busy. They've got everything, and it's like, yeah. So if you want this thing, what has to come off your plate? Just even that, because people don't take the time and the space to really dive into some of this uncomfortable stuff. And I will also say, the thing that I've been witnessing a lot lately is that women, when something clicks, it just clicks and they can continue to move forward. They don't have to go through on and on and on and on to actually find the thing that clicks. They can just move.
Mm-hmm.
And things change a lot faster than I feel like they used to maybe be able to change. And I think that's sort of a collective, like, there's something in the collective water, right? Like there's in the collective universe, I think we're all rising, right? We're all connected. And so when something clicks and clicks for another person, we're all in that interweb, and it's clicking for all of us faster, so we can move faster. And I think that's why I think, honestly, coaching and facilitating, as you ladies do too, is so powerful, especially now in this point of time.
Yeah, that's really, really, really powerful, because I just kind of picture you when you stood up and said no. The energy and the power that was behind that, it was just totally connection with the spirit, with universe, with the feminine. You just totally got, I mean, I'm talking about it and getting goosebumps. It was you totally felt, no, that's not true. That has nothing to do with what I'm feeling and what I know. And of course, women know inside of them, but we forget. We forget that, because we get told, oh yeah, this is what happens when you get punished, And I remember things, because I'm a Greek Orthodox growing up as that. And I remember when they were saying they would get punished, for certain things, even about God. And we know God is love, God doesn't punish. So it's the dichotomy of all that stuff that is happening inside of us. So my question is, you felt that energy. How did you cultivate it from that moment that you were 16, you feminine energy and your feminine power, because that's really young for you to kind of really connect to that energy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, it was interesting because I do a lot of that cultivation just again on my own. It's still kind of more part of my process is I've always had a bit of a morning time where I just connect. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I went through my arc of, early 20s and being a complete, off the charts, a little wild child and all the things. Sowed my oats here and there. And so one of the things that was interesting when I moved to Colorado, because I really, like I said, I was brokenhearted. I really was brokenhearted because I felt the love and I had never felt that before. And I didn't know how to find that again. And I had gone to other churches and things, and I just was like, I can't, this is not for me, for whatever that inner knowing. And when I moved to Colorado, again, series of synchronicity events. I was just working retail. A woman came in. I had went above and beyond to help her find all this stuff to do these things that she makes at home. Turns out she was an intuitive reader. She's like, I'd love to give you a reading. I was like, wow, I've never had one of those before. Like all of these things, right? And she said at this reading, she goes, I picture you working at this place. At the time, it was called Dreamweaver here in town in Fort Collins. And it's a metaphysical store. And so I'm 24 years old, I think, 23, 24 years old at this point. And I was like, wow, never heard of it. Great, I'll go check it out. Sure enough, walk in, happen to talk to the owner. She's like, wow, we need a part-time person. You want a job? Great, I'd love a job. Like, so I started working there, like on my days off from this other retail place. And I will tell you, working there opened up so much. I just learned about things I didn't know exist. I was reading books on astral projection. I mean, diving into things that now 25 years old, really opened it up. And I will also say though, like any religion, the new age field has its own religion, right? It has its own box that they like to put you in. And I bucked the system on that too. I was like, yeah, no. So I think it's always been a series of seeking and just trusting my path. And that's part of that cultivation is that self-trust, really. Keeps coming back to that is really trusting ourselves. And then how do you trust yourself? Well, you keep trusting yourself. That's like, how do you do it? You keep doing it.
So when you trust yourself, is it like the intuition that you connect to, or it's just a thought that comes in at the moment and you're like, okay, I love this? Because they say, the first 10 seconds is exactly the right thing. Then
Yeah.
after the heart goes in there and makes a mess. Yeah. So is that what you follow in a sense of guiding you to really opening up your feminine and really be where you are today?
I think that is a big part of it. And I think another big part of it is also learning how, because there's 6 different types of intuition, right? There's all different ways with which it comes. And I think that's something that is really important for women to understand because they might think of it as one particular way, and yet they're missing a whole other way that information comes to them. And they may
Yeah.
not be recognizing it. And that's an easy Googling it, right? Like just Google the 6 types and you can learn about it. And I think for me, I got really clear about how the messages came through, like when it was really strong. I think for me too, it was like, how do I say this? It's trusting it, but there is, again, I want to say you give yourself the space to trust it. Because if we're just constantly going and we don't have that time to sit and reflect and just be with ourselves, it gets lost in the noise because spirit isn't loud. Spirit doesn't usually scream, right? It's subtle. The ego is the one that's usually yelling pretty loudly about things. Um, oh, and then also tools like automatic writing. I've played with oracle cards and tarot cards since I was 20. Like, pendulums and right, all the things, muscle testing that you start to learn to do tool wise, skill wise, that supports you in what spirit is really trying to guide you in.
So you pretty much use all the tools, or you used to use the tools to like get to really trust
Yeah.
and then really have the confirmations, and then you continue trusting. And I
Yes.
think that's also important. We need to really, for us to totally trust, we need to understand the confirmations that come in.
Yes.
It can be a sign, that can be, a phone call, it can be an ad on whatever,
Yeah.
it can be anything. So
Yeah.
we can be trusting the process.
Yes. Yes. So I have a really funny story that just popped up about that. So I am a dog person. I'm an animal person. I'm childless by choice. And so I had my soul dog come in. I I was single at the time. I was exhausted one day. I'm laying on the couch. I was working so hard. This is in my design days. And I heard go to the pound. And I was like, I'm not going to I'm exhausted. Now's not the time for a puppy. Blah, 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 blah. I heard it 3 times. I was like, fine. So I was like, all right, let me pull some cards. I needed the confirmation. I was like, I was trying not to go. I didn't want to go. I was like, this is not the time for a dog. So I pull angel card. It was new beginnings, new love, and trust. And I was like, fine. So, and I see my little dog Max. That was literally the light of my life, like the best dog on the planet. Okay, so he passes away. It's been 5.5 years now, and I was gearing up for another soul dog. I was like, okay, so this was 5 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm ready for another soul dog. I'm listening for the message, and I kept saying, I need to be called, because that's how I felt. I was called to my dog Max. So I kept saying, I need to be called. I need to be called. So, but I'm also a very grounded person. So I'm also gonna, be in touch with some shelters and, pay attention to dogs that come up, and, I look and all that stuff too. Right. So I had done that. This gal reached out to me. She said, we've got this puppy. Here's a picture of her. Here's her personality. It's everything that you said you're looking for. What do you think? And I looked at her and I went, I think that's my dog. Like, no. And she goes, okay, so did you want to set up a meet and greet? And I go, no, I don't want to set up a meet and greet. And she goes, okay. So I'm out riding bikes with my husband. We stop for lunch. The phone rings. And I look at it, and it's the shelter. And I was like, why are they calling me? So I'm listening to the message, and it says, we've set up your meet and greet. We're so excited to have you meet Kayla, or not Kayla, whoever the dog's name was, blah, 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 blah. So excited. And I go to my husband, I listen to the message, I hang it up, and I go, I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, get your act together. I said no. And my husband looks at me and he goes, didn't you say you wanted to be called? I was like, I didn't think literally. So I go meet this puppy, and I'll be dang, she is my next soul dog. I've had her for 5 years, and she's the best thing on the planet.
I'm a dog person too, and I know the feeling. I drove for my new one that I have. I drove all the way to Romania to get her. So I'm from Greece to Romania.
Yes.
That tells you,
Yeah.
And I had no idea who she was, and I just walked there, and it was chosen for me. She chose me, and chose her, and brought her back home. So she's a little spunk, and I love her to death too. So I get it.
Love that.
Yeah, so they all shift and change, Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to the women from, any age that you feel that they can take it and just create something in their lives with your advice?
My advice. I mean, it really is cultivating self-trust, and that, I think there's a lot of ways that we can do that. I do think this is a lot of the power of coaching, because we can, as we can witness and we see things that they haven't been able to see yet, which supports their trusting themselves and feeling that. And I would say acting on that intuition that they do get, because I think that's part of self-trust. If you don't act, you don't get that feedback. right? So I think that really cultivates that. Um, I would say find something that is embodied. I mean, embodiment is a huge thing for me, to cultivate embodiment, because I believe that's how, I think that's the other thing I didn't mention, is I think that one of the reasons how I've been able to be in touch with my intuition is because I've always been a dancer. I've been in my body as best I can, even when it feels unsafe to do so. And that allowed me to listen. And so anything that's creative, anything that supports embodiment will only cultivate that feminine power and that energy. Um, and then get off the train and get on a sailboat. Like, I, I mean, I might go out of business if everybody is on a sailboat, and I am fine with that. I will be thrilled with that, because all of my clients are trained people, right? They reach a point in their lives that they're not happy and they don't know why, because they've checked every box, they've reached every station. So learn to sail.
That's true. And that's captivating you feminine, because when you flow,
Yep.
that is where your femininity comes. You don't worry about the obstacles, you go by it. You're like a river. Our bodies are made of water. So why not? We carry the baby in water. So, might as well learn how to flow within that water. So yeah, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that should be the title of your book, get off the train and learn how to sail. I don't know if you've written a book,
Nice.
maybe that is the title, but that is a really good message because, um, you know, sometimes people don't even realize they have that option, right? To get off the train. It's like they feel like they were put on the train and, even when the train stops or even hits an obstacle, they don't even realize that they can get off that train. And when you are learning to sail, like you said, you're working with the elements, the things that are in your life, and you know how to pivot. And sometimes, I mean, I've sailed, you get stuck and you have to sit there and wait for the wind to change. But I do really love this metaphor of the sailboat and how there is an act of surrender in that. And that by being able to surrender, that's when things can be revealed and experienced. And we can be more true to ourselves, right? Because all of a sudden, we are controlling where we want to go more than when we're on a train where there's prescribed stops for us. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I think the other thing to support that is for women to understand that, like, because I feel like, and maybe you've experienced this too with people that you've talked to, but I feel like sometimes there's this concept of, you can't be successful unless you're in the box, if you're on the train or on the tracks. Like, you can't make lots of money, or you can't be in positions of power. And I just think that is one of the biggest myths that is around too. Like, it's this, well, you're either this hippie, feminine, flowy person, or you're this corporate. And I'm like, nope. Like, grounded in the middle, into both, right? Like, we can feel it all. I think that you can be highly successful and impactful on the sailboat. In fact, more so than being on a train, because a train is somebody that basically they told you to get on the train. They said, here's what life is supposed to be like, get on.
I think that's really true. And if you get outside that box, right, those parameters, like you said, the sky's the limit. Anything can be materialized or experienced. You can disrupt things, you can shift things. And I think so often when so many of us are on that train, we get, so to speak, now I'm getting metaphorical, derailed. Right?
Yes, no, it's for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But, I really do, I do really love that image. And, you know, this is something that seems to have been very intuitive and something you knew deeply in your life. But was there anything that you wish somebody had told you as a really young person that, you maybe had to learn on your own, but that would have been a helpful thing for somebody to have told you?
I would say two things is one is the thing that is the easiest and most natural for you is the most valuable.
Mm.
Like the thing that you do the easiest and is just like, yeah, of course I do this. Or, I can see things. This is why I was really good at design, why I'm really good with business coaching, with life coach. Like I can see it. I can just see the potential. And I didn't even know that other people couldn't do that when I was growing up. Like I didn't know. Right. So yeah, find the thing that is your natural gifts and talents. Like if I would have been told, like, yeah, that's where you should charge the most money, like would have saved me a lot of time and energy. I would have loved to have learned that early, right? Like really, truly. And I would say the other thing is that life actually can get easier. I had a message given to me that life only gets harder. Like this life only gets harder. And it really caused a nervous system response for me because it was like, I'm already overwhelmed. Because I felt everything, but I didn't show that I felt everything, but I'm an empath. So I felt everything. And I was like, oh my God, if this gets harder, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Right? Like, I don't know if I can survive this. And so it caused a nervous system response of avoid. So it kind of made me a little wonky. And if I would have been told, like, no, actually, life can be easier, like, life can actually get easier, it would have been a game changer for me, for sure.
I love that idea because I think we always like assume the difficultness of whatever it is that we set our minds to. And we forget that no, there's ease in that and that it can get easier. And that's a paradigm shift. Again, some of the things that we're talking about throughout this episode. And I think that's really important to remember because it's easy to focus on those obstacles, focus on those challenges, focus on the things that we're afraid may or may not happen, as opposed to visualizing that which can materialize for us with less effort and more ease. And that's as equal a possibility as anything that we set our minds to, which is really powerful. This has been so delightful to have you with us, Michelle. It's been super inspiring for me, and I know for Zeffi, and hopefully for all of our listeners. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about how can people get in touch with you and work with you and kind of get off that train and onto their own sailboat.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's really just go to my website, which is michelle@michellevos.com. Um, Notice my last name. Vos is VOS, not two S's. That's the biggest thing. Yeah, it's one-on-one coaching for me. And I am very accessible these days. I don't make people jump through a bunch of hoops. I've really pared down my business. I used to do pretty big things, ran a lot of programs. I have an Oracle card deck. I done a lot, and I've really pared things down because I just love the one-on-one. I just love to dive into that and dive deep with women. And even the retreats I do are, 4 to 6 women at a time with me and another facilitator. Like we just get to be intimate and yeah, that's just the easiest. Is just go to my site, check me out, and reach out.
And I would really recommend that. I can tell that you have a beautiful way of helping people see things in new ways and reminding them of who they truly are and the power that they already possess. So that is something I would recommend everybody do. And I don't know, is your Oracle deck still available or is it something you sell still?
It is. Yeah, it's on my site. Yeah, again, I'm just, I'm also a starter and I move on. Just basically reach out. Get on my mailing list, reach out. I'm accessible.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's kind of where you're at in life. You're drawing people to you, the people that need to find you.
Yeah, exactly. I
We
trust.
relate
I
to
trust.
that. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been our true pleasure.
It's been an absolute delight. Both of your energies are just brilliant. And I absolutely adore both of you and what you bring to the table. And thank you for doing this podcast for women. I mean, it takes a village and it really takes this sage energy to cultivate all the things that we're really wanting here to cultivate. So thank you for being a big presence.
And thank you for being part of this village, because we are creating one. And with your help and all the other women, I really think it's very important for us to have our village and have our community, and to really, really support each other no matter what, because we have lost that. So thank you for being part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Woman Arising, where we celebrate the resilience, wisdom, and power of women on the rise. Remember, when women rise, we all rise. If you're ready to embark on your journey of empowerment, sign up for our mailing list at womenarising.com and join our community of strong, inspiring women. To connect with Zeffi Devi and ignite your inner fire, visit zeffidevi.com and sign up to get your free tantric meditation. Let Zeffi illuminate your path, helping you discover the magic and power that reside within you. To connect with Cathy Hartenstein and claim your spectacularness, visit createmorebliss.com and sign up for a free 30-minute consult call where she can help you break through your emotional blocks to success. Let Cathy be your guide on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Thank you for being a part of the Women Arising community. Together, let's continue to uplift, inspire, and empower women everywhere. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep embracing the divine feminine power that resides within you.
You are the holy grail, the Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer.